Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So I'm going to explain to you what's going on in martial arts with the LGBT agenda, the white supremacist agenda, the Jewish supremacist agenda, and the token minorities helping them out. So the person on the screen on the right is an example of a token minority helping them out. No offense to that person or anyone else, but this stuff has to be said. So why is that person, who obviously has a somewhat sloppy style, able to win Olympic taekwondo sparring victories, if you want to call them that? Well, because people have had their brains hacked in recent years, and they've changed the testosterone level of their bodies. Now, I'm not somebody who's a conspiracy theorist. I deal in facts. I'm the son of 2 doctors, one a brain surgeon. My father is the most highly decorated brain surgeon I've ever heard of. Many top doctor awards, humanitarian, and the most moral brain surgeon in human history. So what I have to say about this is extremely important. In fact, my father even wrote in a book with the Dalai Lama. It was on the true meaning of wealth or true meaning of happiness or something like this. So to not take what I have to say seriously is stupid. Plus, I have a top martial arts challenge that I made back in 2013 before people were acting so strange. There was a lot of stiff competition then. In fact, during 2013 was the last time in history where there was going to be stiff competition. After about 2017 or so, things went straight to hell. They were starting to go to hell around that time. I also have another challenge in 2012. And during that time, I took the best martial art picture in human history. Forged with righteous strikes. I've compared it to Bruce Lee's picture with his shirt off. Scott Adkins, Van Damme, and I go easily beyond them. My body allows for more maneuverability, and my philosophy is greater, and I use focused moral intensity and not the mere movement of energy, but the driving force of universal pinpointed moral precision. Also, the wordplay to the black belt points to me. I've gone over this many times. Kiro Obi, black belt. Obi means King Hard Hut, Essence Center, Temple Core, and Igbo. Obi, in fact, is Igbo, the name of my father's African tribe, spelled backwards. Okay, so now that I have that out the way, the testosterone levels are key here, as they don't allow for straight people to really transcend gay people by far like they historically do in terms of physical performance. It allows for somebody who's more sloppy and gayish, like John Jones and that Olympic champion, to win these awards. Now, John Jones is a pretty good fighter, but he's also sloppy. When martial arts are done right, sloppy people, gay people, they simply do not beat everyone else. It's just absurd. That's like a little girl beating everyone else. It just doesn't happen. Now, keep in mind that during my prime, and I had various moments, right? When I was 17, I also could beat everybody on the planet. But there was a lot more stiff competition. There was older people, right? Some people were 30 years old, very good at the time. Kung fu experts, people from various martial arts styles were very competitive at the time. FMA, taekwondo, karate, you name it. But when I was 17, I reached a certain pinnacle and a certain point of intensity and a certain point of realizing my martial arts greatness, that went much beyond when I was 16, for example, when I was already a grand champion of martial arts at taekwondo. But I started developing my own side, a certain kind of divine vengeance flowing through me as I was being treated a certain way. I've been to reform school. Me at 17, I was much greater of a martial artist than me at 16. The two aren't comparable. And when I was 14, I was a great basketball player, but my physique was nowhere near comparable to that when I was 17. The same when I was 16. I did about a year more of serious weightlifting and striking with a certain determination and a certain desire to set things straight and to marshal things correctly. To marshal means to order, to arrange, what have you. They also changed the sound of my voice. So, when I was about 34, 35 in 2016, that's when the pinnacle of martial arts of all time in the human race was achieved. And no one can ever outdo it. I struck at world record speed. I had a certain determination. There was nothing like it. It would be interesting to see me at 17 take on me at 35, 34, 35. That would have been very interesting. But anyway, so what you often see with these gay people, right, is they like to highlight things like the butt. They like to reduce females' appeal, and they like to try to blur the line because they believe they're training the human collective conscious, the individual brains, the brains of people in groups, to kind of desire males more and females less. Okay, some people like me aren't gay at all. So they're trying to turn people gay, and they're trying to make people who are slightly inclined to be gay be more inclined to be gay. And I've tried to discuss this with them many times. It's not best for anyone, including the LGBT community. And there's LGBT people who don't approve, and they have been threatened by the rich LGBT people, like poor whites and poor Jews are threatened by rich whites and rich Jews, and everyone's threatened by these people, what have you, until they refuse to rally to me and try to take these people on in a debate, right? And I'm targeted, and they've persecuted me and caused me quite a bit of cognitive damage, physical harm. I'm partially crippled, but if I was allowed to recover, there isn't a person on the planet that I wouldn't be able to beat. In fact, the Taekwondo champion right now, if they just stopped, fuming me and poisoning me just for a day or two, I could beat him easily, okay, especially at outdoor sparring. Now, how do we know this? Well, he has a certain sagginess of muscle, a certain gay spirit, a certain lack of seriousness, okay? So, would the Pink Panther as a cartoon character beat a real-life leopard that is very focused and intense, not interfere with government technology? No. That leopard would strike his neck real quick, done. And so it is with me versus, John Jones or the Olympic champion or anyone else. I will make short work of them. So they're even making it harder for me to explain this and trying to make it so they can change speech patterns as well. And if you live in California, you know for sure that's the case. Maybe if you live in a really underdeveloped nation, in a remote area, maybe you doubt it, probably not, but maybe. These guys often have cell phones and things like this, okay? But if you live in California, you know for sure, just like if you live in New York, that there are technologies manipulating human behavior. And I'd imagine that's the case in all 50 states here and in Canada and in Mexico, that people have no doubt in their mind that people are being manipulated with supercomputers, artificial intelligence, fumes, poisons, and technologies. When I first started talking about this, okay, people were playing stupid more in the comments. There was a lot of trolls. Now they just simply avoid the topic because everyone is basically satisfied that I'm right about this. And people like me took a lot of heat when we first started talking about this. People probably beat me to it by a little bit, but as soon as I realized that it was going on, I started talking about it immediately. But some people were talking about it before I was. And they took a lot of heat. And I took a lot of heat. So as we look at, martial arts, we look at the word cheat. Again, the word cheat is one of the very telling words here. You spell it out for them. The word cheat is see heat, and he cat scrambled, and see he at, right? So they're changing my pictures, they're changing my voice. So the mental vision of how I sound and what you think of and how I look has changed. But also from the wordplay, right? Kuro Obi Black Belt, it points to me, the Royal African Falcon martial art line. Okay, and I'm not, black people aren't the ones doing it. Nigerians aren't the ones doing it. Igbos aren't the ones doing it. And my family, they're not the ones doing it. The main people doing it are white, Jews, and LGBT people. They hid the wordplay in plain view. So changing my voice doesn't change that. I'm reliable. They're not. Other black people know that I'm right. For example, a Somalian wouldn't say, no, Somalians were tougher than Nigerians. They wouldn't say that. Not just because they're outnumbered, but because Nigerians are a lot tougher than they are, and everyone knows that they're the toughest race, toughest nationality. Now, I'm not racist, but everyone knows that. So, as we look at, Ethiopians and Eritreans and people from Sierra Leone and Cameroon and Angola and South Africa, we go through the list, you see of black people, which are the most kind of the greatest warrior race, if you will. No offense to anybody. In terms of the pinnacle of the spectrum, Nigerians are the bell that rings the loudest. So when the die is cast, like I always say, the racial competition is over. There's no advancing your race's history anymore because of all the sabotage and stuff that's gone on. It's, are you a great person as an individual? So the martial art order, the die is cast. And martial is marital scrambled, and I, Christ, and the bridegroom, right? Marital as in marriage, and merit, and what you're basing that merit on. Okay, you're going to give people credit for things they shouldn't get credit for because they sabotage other people, because they use the machine, because they cheat. The word position is poison is scrambled, right? Cheat, see heat, see he cat. And position is poison is scrambled, and justice, just ice, and so on and so forth. So, it's pretty straightforward there. I'm satisfied that everyone with sense who hears this video knows that I'm right. I'm satisfied that even if no one saw my videos at all, God sees my great effort. Now, I'm not a Muslim, but the word jihad means to put forth a great effort. This is established in religions, right? What Christian would argue that a great effort doesn't matter? The greatest commandment is loving God with all your heart, which requires a great effort. To love your neighbor as yourself. Greater love is none than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends, and that requires a great effort. So the essence of loving God with all your heart is making that great effort to love God with all your heart and achieving. To believe and to achieve. Faith without works is dead. And what do you achieve? If someone kidnaps you as a child and holds you in a basement your whole life and say, hey, why are you even trying to, be loyal to God? You're not changing anything. You are. You're changing yourself. You're making that great effort. And so my martial art challenge proved definitively that I'm the top martial artist ever possible. Consider tech, cheating, generational ill-gotten gains. Consider the future. Consider controlled breeding. It's clear. And my striking at world record speed overkilled that. For people who didn't believe the wordplay, they don't believe the ideas, they don't believe that a leopard naturally goes beyond, say a golden retriever or a pit bull. There was those videos where I'm striking at world record speed. So for the same reason a leopard goes beyond the Pink Panther idea in the cartoon, that a straight black person goes beyond a gay black person. And that the traits of the top martial artists aren't Jewish. They are Nigerian. It's that Nigerian ferocity. And when we look at Asians who are good at martial arts, look at the shape of their head. Look at their features. They look like Nigerians to some degree. And so it is when we talk about the essence, the king, the heart, the hut. So it is that the evidence points definitively to me. So when we look at the argument being made, you have to believe two things. One, that martial is marital scrambled for a reason. That they have the wordplay right, that it's a divine martial art order. The Lord is a warrior, Exodus 15:3. That it translates to the Lord's order is a Royal African Falcon martial art order, not the IDF or the Mossad. These guys doing some kind of hand-to-hand combat with modern warfare, but the potent true form of God's warrior expression. And two, you have to believe the overwhelming evidence that shows that I'm the top martial artist ever possible, including to the wordplay when English is not a Nigerian language. It's an English language, right? It's a Latin-based language. And that the Jews themselves, when you look at the Hebrew, when you look at the evidence there as well, and when you look at Exodus, when we look at the Bible and all the warrior activity, when we look at Judges, where God teaches the Israelites warfare in the story, when we look at Psalms, where the Lord trains the king's hand for battle, Psalm 18, the evidence is definitive that I am the Son of God, that these guys who train on artificial terrain have no chance against the one God truly set apart, outdoor sparring. That the quick, fast movements of Wing Chun and Krav Maga, whatever they're doing, I've seen it a bit, I understand it enough. When you look at the different techniques and styles, they're not going to cover world record speed and the skywalking footwork of the top martial arts and faster reflexes. They're not going to cut it. They're not going to outmaneuver me. It's not possible. What little people have done while I'm fumed and poisoned does not equal victory. I have achieved victory. So when you look at the pictures, you look at what they're doing, look at the evidence. Who was allowed it? Who's led the charge? Okay, you think black people paid whites, Jews, and LGBT people to do it this way? To try to fool you into believing something you already know is true? That doesn't make any sense. Obviously, they're the ones trying to fool you. These rich people, these corporate people, these government people, these secret society people, these social club people. If they spill everything out for you with 16,000 videos get fumed and poisoned every day? Or are they some privileged worm? Maybe with some kid from an underdeveloped nation that's from their bloodline trying to sneak it in there. The word snake is the word sneak scrambled. The word snake means to cheat. Do they highlight privilege and behind the scenes reproduction, or do they just fucking cheat you? Think about it.